Blog Talk Radio.
Hi everyone, this is Marty McDermott of Franchise Interviews, and welcome to a special Saturday edition of our show. You might get a little hungry after today's show. You're going to hear our interview with Len Moore, who's the founder of Lenny's Sub Shop. Stick around because we got a great show.
Are you one of those special people who are willing to go after your dreams and goals? Are you ready to fulfill that dream of owning your own business with the security of a proven brand? The opportunity to take control of your future and own a Rita's Italian Ice franchise is within your reach.
Rita's is seeking success-oriented individuals who are ready to make a change in their life, and Rita's offers unparalleled training and support to assure your success. And did you know the frozen treat industry is a recession-proof industry, and there are Rita's in 23 states currently with 540 stores open. Rita's Italian Ice has been around for 25 years and is listed as a top-performing franchise by the Wall Street Journal.
Now here's the really good part. Rita's Italian Ice is a unique and amazing taste treat. It's smoother than a snow cone, and it combines ice with real fresh fruit. The real fruit adds dramatically to the taste, and it comes in over 40 flavors. The ice and fruit are mixed on site and made fresh daily, and it is delicious.
You'll want to know more about this exciting and successful franchise opportunity. Go to www.ownaritas.com and get all your questions answered. That's www.ownaritas.com to take control of your dreams and future today. You don't want to wait any longer to be a part of this adventure. www.ownaritas.com.
And today we have a very special guest, Len Moore of the franchise opportunity, Lenny's Sub Shop. And since the beginning, Lenny's motto has been more food, more taste, more personality. Hey, Len, good morning. Welcome to the show.
Hey, great to be here, Marty. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Len. Len, joining us is my co-host, Don Johnson, who's
Don,
president
good morning.
of I think you know.
Yeah, Len, we appreciate you coming on the show. Thanks a lot. You must be a pretty busy guy. Lenny's has over 300 locations, right?
Yeah.
Well, right now we have about 160 locations open and probably over 600 franchises done.
Right. Yeah,
So
that's a tremendous amount.
we are growing, yes.
And I see, Marty and I wanted to mention you've had some roots in New Jersey, of course, where Marty and I are from. So you see down the Jersey Shore where you started things off, huh?
Yeah, well, I got to tell you the truth. People always ask where I'm from, and I say from Philadelphia. But the fact of the matter is I'm from a little place called Newcastle, Delaware, which is about, 30 miles south of Philadelphia. But the first sub shop that I worked, spent most of my young adult life in the Philadelphia market, working in Philadelphia. And my first sub shop that my wife and I owned and operated in 1979, we opened on the Jersey Shore on the Wildwood Boardwalk.
Right, which is very popular. Some of the nicest beaches in New Jersey along.
I love it.
South
Those
Jersey
were
there,
great years, being back there on the boardwalk making subs, and
Right.
It was a great time for sure.
Absolutely.
Good memories, yeah.
That's great. Len, we always like to start off by asking our guests where you're calling from today.
Sure, calling in from our offices in Houston, Texas, and getting ready to jump on an airplane and head to our Memphis office later this afternoon. So.
Oh, fantastic. That's great. Len, what were you doing before starting Lenny's Sub Shop?
Well, do you want to start from when I was born, or do you want to, take?
I guess that'd be a long history, right?
Yeah, I guess I've always been in the food service business, and I started out the day that I turned 16 years old, getting a job as a busboy and working my way up through training manager, regional training director for a steakhouse company in the late, in the early 70s, and then I met Truett Cathy with Chick-fil-A and became one of the first Chick-fil-A owner-operators. I think it was actually Chick-fil-A number 18, but what a tremendous concept and what a great job those guys have done. And I learned a lot and spent some years there with Chick-fil-A, and then moved on to quite a few restaurant companies, every role from director of marketing, regional director, operations director, and training directors, and then eventually working for some private groups, running restaurant companies and small startups and things like that. So, but always been in the restaurant business.
Right. So by the time you started your own business, I mean, you were just chock full of experience.
Well, I'd certainly, and the one thing in the food industry, a lot of people, it's one of those positions where companies, I guess, you move around a little bit. One year you're here, and the next year you're taking your knowledge and what you've learned to another company. But I have certainly seen our segment of the industry. I have both in full service and fast casual. So I've been around it. Yep.
It sounds like that was part of your incentive, maybe start your own business, maybe, settling down, not going all over the place anymore. Was that part of it, Len?
Well, yeah, to a degree, and I think in the 30-some years my wife and I have been married, I think we've been relocated 21 times with restaurant companies, so that was certainly a big part of it. But the other part was to, I guess you just get to the point in your life and your career that you say there must be something else, and, you just, I'm tired of working for somebody, and I want to just see what I can do myself, and that's kind of the position I took in September of '98 when my wife and I, with a big mortgage and all the bills that you have and a daughter getting ready to start college, I came home one day and said, hey, I'm going to go start a sub shop company. She kind of shook her head and said, are you crazy? And then when she realized I wasn't, she got behind me, and the rest is kind of history at this point.
That's fantastic. It sounds like what you did was you duplicated what you saw as a child on the streets of Philadelphia, Len. Interviews with you.
Exactly right. And traveling around the country, the one thing that we always missed was whenever we'd be in places, and we were settling at the time in Memphis, Tennessee, but we missed that good old Philly cheesesteak,
right.
Authentic Philly.
Out of this world, absolutely.
Right. Oh, and it was just, we just missed it. And when we were sitting there, my daughter had actually been accepted to college at the University of Texas, and we were adding the bills up, and we said, well, gee, we have a great, career, and I make good money, but it just wasn't quite enough to cover that out-of-state tuition. And I said, well, why don't we just go ahead and do a sub shop? And that's what Lenny started out to be, was a one mom and pop shop. And that's how we opened it, and that's how we originally operated it. And then, we never realized in our wildest imagination just how successful it would be, and kind of led us to where we are here today.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, Len, one of my lenders is in Houston, and they're a big fan of Lenny's.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Well, we're developing the Houston market out now. That's where I'm living now, and my partners and I are doing 90 stores here in Houston. We've opened 18 here in the past year, just about a year. We've opened 18 stores, and we'll have 31 stores open here by February. And we have just been received extremely well in the Houston market, and we're just in fact, we had an opening earlier this week, and we've got one the first of next week again. So we're staying busy right through the holidays this year with new store openings.
It shows the confidence you have in the product, opening up that many stores within a city or city limits area.
Well, it is, and Houston's just with 5 million people, I guess, almost 5 million people, and we've got a 5-county market. It'll easily hold 90 stores, and we see some of our competing brands with 300 plus locations in this market. So we know that the market will certainly hold 90 stores. So
wow, that's fantastic.
So tell us the history a little bit about Lenny's.
Well, okay. Let me see. We opened our first sub shop in September of 1998. My wife Sheila and I did that one. It was in a place called Bartlett, Tennessee, which is a suburbs of Memphis. And we opened it on a shoestring budget with just a little bit of savings. And again, we opened it as a mom and pop shop. And we opened up, and I guess I can tell you some little things. But when we talk about sales, we opened up very, very slow. The first couple of days were just extremely slow, and we decided we would go out and start knocking on doors and inviting people in. And by the end of the first month, we were setting sales records beyond our wildest imaginations. And into the second, third, fourth, fifth months, we were seeing 20 and 30% increases in sales volumes from what we started. By the end of 3 months, we were already looking for a second location. And if you remember, I started our conversation by saying that this was going to be a mom-and-pop concept with one store.
Right.
And all of a sudden, 3 months later, we're doing a second store. We got an SBA loan to do 3 more stores after that. And by the end of the first full year in business, we were up to 5 restaurants in the Memphis market.
Wow, incredible. So what was the secret? The bottom line, in like any good restaurant, just quality food and service, probably the 2 big things that why it became so popular.
Yeah, it really is, and I think we try to keep things simple, and this is a concept that is very, very simple. I mean, you do not need to be a licensed, degreed chef to understand the Lenny sub shop concept, but it is. Right. It's basically, I guess, if we have a mission statement, it's 3 things. It's great food served in a clean restaurant with excellent caring service every time. And I always refer to that as like being a test. If you went in and you took a test in school and it was 3 questions, how much is each question worth? Well, it's worth 33 1/3 points. So if you're hitting on, if you get 2 questions right, you still get only a 66%. You fail. So it's an equal balance of just doing 3 things very, very well. First and foremost, you've got to have great food. I mean, your food has got to be excellent, and we believe we've got a product that's second to none. Number 2, you've got to have a clean restaurant. You've got to keep your place neat. You've got to keep it clean. And we have the systems in place, and we have the decor package and all that is very simple, very easy to maintain, and very easy to keep clean, and the guests really appreciate that. And then lastly is the part that we all so often in many businesses forget, and that's the service factor. It's a shame, but in today's world, it seems like we've forgotten about service. We've forgotten things like please and thank you and hello and goodbye, and that's one of the things that I learned in my early days with Chick-fil-A and repeating today, of course, with our Lennys concept, and just being nice to people and treat people like you would like to be treated. So those are the 3 things that we look for. We try to keep the concept very, very simple, but if you can do those things, and the systems that we have in place for the food quality are very, very simple, and we can pretty much keep our food quality right on top. And the cleanliness is certainly a work on, but it's the people skills, and it's just great service that makes our business work.
So then, Len, what's going through your head? You're not open that long. All of a sudden, you have several locations. It's a hit. It's popular. You're starting to do well. What happens after that? Do you start to think about franchising, or is that still several years away?
Well, when I started the concept out, that's a great question. When I started the concept out, everybody would say, "Oh, this is a fluke. You'd never be this." It's the first store, and the second store would never be that successful. And as we said, by the end of the first year, we had 5. Then people started saying, "Well, you're a Memphis phenomenon. You couldn't take this across, down the road." So of course, I took off to Destin, Florida, which is another nice seashore area, and we put a few stores down there, and we shared the success, and it went very, very well. But our early deals were done pretty much as an owner-operator deal, where I got the money, I built the restaurant. And then I brought friends that I've been working with over this 30-plus year career in the restaurant industry, and I brought them in as owner-operators, and again, much like what we had done in Chick-fil-A. And these operators came in, and they participated in half the profits and the business, and I put up all the money. The problem was I was getting older and older, and I was getting more and more in debt, so the system wasn't working as well as I thought it would early on, and we were continuing to grow. Every time we opened a new location, we needed to bring in more people and so forth and so on. So somewhere around our 3rd year, we decided to go ahead and go the franchise route. This would continue to create opportunities for my longtime friends and associates, and while at the same time not making me finance and put every restaurant deal together myself personally. So that's kind of how we got into it. It's just another way to help out, keeping the company locally, I guess I want to say small and locally operated with just friends and family, buying franchises. But we kind of took off. We started the first year of franchising, and we had a goal of selling 12 franchises the first year, and we had sold 24 by the end of March. So
wow, that's incredible. My
planning was not as good as I had thought. I guess it was a good thing, but we just didn't realize. We had got through Memphis market up to 26 restaurants, and I think today we've got about 31 restaurants in Memphis with a population of just a little bit over 1 million people, and they're all doing very, very well, very successful. So.
Well, at least you were setting goals, and
right. Yeah, well, I had a plan. I was just kind of going off the chart a little bit, which is a good thing. But we had some goals set for sure.
And that was smart, bringing in people who are pretty solid business people, have experience. I mean, they're it was at that point a newer franchise, but with that experience, you knew there was a good chance that they were going to be successful as well.
Well, and it sure did. And of course, we tapped on their experience and their successes in continuing to develop the Lennys brand. A lot of the people that came on board with us as franchisees eventually moved into our corporate office and took over director of operations positions, training positions, real estate positions, and just a lot of things. So it worked out well. It was worked out very, very well for the company and for the franchisees as well.
Is there anything else, Len, to describe the Lenny Sub Shops system? You mentioned simplicity and, of course, quality food and service. Anything else you want to add to that?
Well, I guess I start off by saying we keep it simple, and that's really it. I mean, it really is the sub shop industry, or our particular concept. We start out with fresh baked breads. We do them fresh every day. We slice every sandwich fresh to order. Restaurant News kind of put us in our own. We're considered to be in the fast casual sandwich shop business, but Restaurant News actually came out with a phrase and coined it as being a premium sandwich shop, which is kind of our own little segment in that we kind of take it, I guess, to the next level by baking everything fresh, slicing everything fresh to order. We still make every cheesesteak to order from scratch, just like we used to do back up home. And it's just really a neat concept, and it's just really received very, very well everywhere we've gone. So
great. Yeah, I like how you mentioned, too, Len, the absence of, I saw an interview with you, absence of trash cans in the dining rooms. I think that's so important. You know, it's one of the things that bother me when I go into a restaurant, you know, and you get stuck sitting by a trash can, you know.
Well, you know, you've done your homework, because that's exactly right. In fact, I'm leaving. I told you at the beginning of the interview that I'm heading up to Memphis this afternoon, and we have a part of our training program, which I'm sure we'll end up talking about, but part of our training program is 5 days where the franchisees all come into our corporate office for 5 days, and I kind of take the last day of training and talk about it. But one of the things I talk about is why we do what we do. And we talk about the Lenny's concept being very, very simple, but don't ever think it hasn't been thought through. This is a concept that every little thing we do, from, like you said, the absence of trash cans. I was always frustrated going into a McDonald's or a Burger King or anywhere, and you would sit down with your nice white shirt and tie on from a business meeting, and you would go to stand up, and all of a sudden you'd have ketchup smeared all over your white shirt, and you would immediately say, oh, this restaurant is filthy. Well, it wasn't really the restaurant that was filthy. It was the guest that came in before you and sat down and didn't wipe their table off. And, of course, you plopped in and got there before someone could clean it. And as a result, you got your clothes all dirty, and you leave with the impression that the restaurant's dirty. What we do at Lenny's is we don't give you anywhere to put your trash. So we've taken all the trash cans out of the dining room.
Right.
So when a guest gets done eating, they have nothing to do but leave all their food and their empty drink cups and all on the table. That alerts the staff that we've got a dirty table, and we run out there with our sanitizer and our towel, and we sanitize and clean the table, wipe the chairs off, and throw the trash away ourselves, so that we know if you walk up to an empty table and you sit down, it's going to be a clean table. So little thing, but you know, really kind of
very important. Absolutely.
That bothers me too. And I was a food business owner briefly, and you know, something simple like going into the bathroom. That's something that would bother me, going to a restaurant bathroom. If that's dirty and not kept up and there's towels all over the place on the floor, what does that tell you about the management or maybe how the kitchen is? I was very paranoid about that, just always, cleanliness overall, but also especially the bathroom.
Well, and, I've been involved in a lot of focus group and panel discussions over the years, and I'm sure you know how these focus groups work, but, it always amazed me when we would sit in and listen, and that's exactly right. We asked guests, how do you determine if a restaurant's clean? We were looking for things like, well, the way the employees are dressed and so. But the number one, every time a person would say is we judge the overall appearance of the restaurant by how clean the restrooms are. And so, it's certainly an area that's neglected, and it really needs to be first and foremost on the list of things to stay on top of.
Right, absolutely.
That's interesting.
Are there any numbers, Len, as far as the stats on the industry, as far as like the premium sandwich shop category or fast casual industry? What kind of numbers are we talking as far as how big the industry actually is?
Well, the food service industry, of course, as you know, is gigantic, and I guess I've never really broken it down. I hate to be stupid. I've never really broken it down into the individual segments because I've always been, my thought's always been, is anybody that sells food is my direct competitor.
Exactly.
One thing I can tell you about Lenny's is that we are on the top, if not in the top, sales volume for sub shops and sandwich shops. Our average unit sales volumes are on the top of the chart. We surpass all of my competitors that I think of in average unit sales volumes, and we're real proud of that. But when I talk about the segment, how large and how many, I wish I could give you a better number, but I really don't have that in front of me, and I don't want to say something that I know is not correct. So
that's okay. It's big. That's we.
Yeah, let me say here, it's very big. I got it right here. It's very big.
Exactly. I think when we had Yum Brands on the show too, Don, I think they said the same thing. They couldn't really give an exact number because the number's just constantly growing as well. So
right.
It's just incredible. Len, are you able to stick around for another segment?
I'd love to.
That's fantastic. So I think what we'll do.
Big Mouth!
Okay, you've got my attention.
It's a rare event in the world of franchising when an opportunity comes your way that can and will thrive in almost any economic environment. It's here, and its name is Big Mouth Advertising.
Big Mouth.
BMA is a leader in the exciting world of mobile media advertising. Why is mobile media advertising able to defy the economic cycles? The answer is obvious. In times of economic weakness, advertising is crucial for survival as the consumer dollar is scarce and the competition fierce. What is mobile media? It's the newest and fastest growing segment in the advertising world. Mobile media brings the message directly to the consumer. Mobile media goes to the consumer in traffic where he eats and where he plays. It quite simply cannot be turned off or thrown out. And when you join the Big Mouth team as a franchisee, you are joining the best. The Big Mouth advantage is simple and successful. We invest in a strong infrastructure and in great people. As a franchisee, you have access to this entire system, including telemarketing, sales maximization, general and administrative support, design and creative services, even billing and collection services. All you need is a mobile media vehicle, a driver, and the willingness to create a financially sound and limitless business for yourself. There are no long-term leases to sign, no expensive build-outs, no office personnel to hire. You will be part of the Big Mouth advertising community and share its entire website and reception services, as well as its complete back-office services. This virtual office guarantees you the freedom to close those sales that will make you a success. We are so proud of our successes that we have voluntarily disclosed our revenue statements. Now, how many other franchises are doing that? Even in these historically rough financial times, Big Mouth Advertising has become a dominant force in the mobile media industry. Join the Big Mouth team and take the first step toward financial freedom. Please call Ron at 888-98-GO-BIG. That's 888-98-GO-BIG.
Big Mouth.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Franchise Interviews, Asking the Entrepreneur Who Owns One. I'm your host, Marty McDermott, with my co-host, Don Johnson. And if you've ever dreamed about owning your own business, then this is the show to listen to. And today we have a very special guest, Len Moore of the franchise opportunity, Lenny Sub. And Don, I think you're up.
Yeah, Len, what types of characteristics make a successful Lenny's Sub Shop franchisee? I'm sure there's certain things you look for whenever you bring on someone new.
Well, as we've been talking in the first segment this morning, is that our concept does not require, I guess it's one of those things, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to learn how to make a great sub. So while restaurant experience is certainly something that's a plus and will help you with some of the day-to-day challenges of operating your business, you'd be more familiar with them as far as the hiring and training and things like that, and food and the certain opportunities that exist in managing, and meeting health standards and so forth and so on. But those are all things that can be trained and learned, very quickly. What we look for really is just we look very hard at the individual, and you need to look hard at yourself. Are you someone that enjoys being out in the public, interacting with people every day? Do you have the people skills to not only get along with your guests, but get along with your vendors and get along with your employees? We look real hard at that, and the personality. And the second thing is your own personal commitment. Are you committed to the brand and the products? You have to love what you do, and you have to have a passion for what you do. And if you enter into our business or anybody's business without really being committed to what you're doing, if you don't like the cars and you don't have a driver's license, you probably don't want to be a car dealer. And it's the same thing in our business. You just really have to enjoy it. You have to love it. You have to have a passion for it to be successful.
Right.
So those are the two things I guess we really look for: is number one, the commitment to the brand, and number two, the personality and the ability to interact with people.
You always make sure, Len, that in a situation where someone's married, that both spouses are on the same side. A lot of times, sometimes both spouses aren't in agreement, and that create a problem. You ever come up against that?
Oh, great question. Yeah, you've got to be 100% committed, and and the family has to be committed, and absolutely everyone. And when we interview, we always love to see, that when we interview our franchisees, we always love to see the family come in. My whole family works in Lenny's Sub Shops. I never encouraged it to be that way, but my wife works in our office, and if you ever seen any of our photos or press releases, she's in almost every opening with me, working what we call the dressing station and dressing the subs after we slice them. And my daughter does our marketing work for us, and my son runs one of my stores down in Tampa, Florida, and actually Sarasota, Florida. And my son-in-law is running one of our stores here in Houston with us. So it's a family business, and you've got your whole family has got to be behind you. They've got to support you. If not, it's going to develop into problems down the road. And it's really good to get that commitment on the front end. But a great point.
Yeah. Myself being in sales and a small business owner for years, I always like to ask different companies we have on, like, how important is someone having sales experience to a new franchisee? You like people to have a little bit of sales, or you don't care if they really haven't had any sales?
Well, I think, when you say sales, I think it just defines a little bit more about the person that you're talking to. And correct me if I'm wrong, Don, but when you're in a sales position, you've got to have that, what we talked about earlier, you've got to have that personality. You've got to have that ability to read the many different kinds of people you come in contact with every day, and what buttons do I push to make this person happy, and that's something that you have to learn how to do in our business, because we are in sales. It's great, though. The nice thing, you're not trying to sell a dress or trying to sell a car. When somebody walks through the doors of a Lennys sub shop, they've already decided they're going to spend money. So, it's a very simple sale, but the traits and the skills that you learn in being a salesperson, as far as interacting with the public, is certainly an asset. Certainly an asset.
I mean, you're almost creating like a little mini friendship.
Oh, absolutely.
People are going to be back and back, unlike a car where you never might see the people again.
Well, that's interesting. When you talk about cars, I got to tell you the quick story of the franchisee that we have. We have a franchisee that for years was in the automotive parts business, and I went to visit with him after several months of owning his franchise, and I said, well, how's things going? He said, man, this is great. He said, the people are just so nice. He said, I was in a business where I dealt with automobile parts, and I never thought much about it. He said, but every time somebody walked through my doors, they were just miserable. Their car they only came in when their car was broken down.
That's so true.
And yet, they come into Lenny's with a smile on their face, and they're looking forward to spending money. So I guess it just depends on what side of the counter you're on. So.
Absolutely.
That's a good point. So how's your training like for franchisees? I imagine you have a very solid training program.
We really do, and training just never stops. I mean, with 35 years in this business, I'm still learning every day. But we offer a 5-week training program right now. Is what we're scheduled to do, and it can go as long as 8 weeks, depending on your background and your experience. But it is a detailed. You start with learning all the stations. You start your first couple of days just observing the restaurant, and then we teach you a week through each one of the stations and learn the stations, and it all comes to an end the last week where you come to our Memphis office, and all the franchisees do that, as well as their managers, and we train them as well, and spend a week with us, and we talk about marketing and all the other parts, the administrative and the paperwork and the day-to-day things you do as a franchisee, and it's a fun week. It's a fun week for sure. And but to answer the question, it goes 5 to 8 weeks. Then of course that gives you a license to go out there and run your Lenny's sub shop. But you're learning for years after that, and you know that in business, you never stop learning. So
right. What time period between they open and their grand opening? I guess there's a few-week time period in there. Great
question. A lot of franchise companies, I'm certainly not here throwing stones at them because there's some great companies out there, but, we'll send you a person. We'll stop out sometime the first month to visit you and see how things are going after you're trained at their corporate office. We actually put up to 3 people in your restaurant for 2 full weeks. And we really believe in the need for a good opening, and so many restaurants open and they're so busy when they open, and I'm sure you've been to those openings, guys.
Right.
You get to a new restaurant opening and it's just packed, and nobody knows what they're doing, and they're not well trained, and all of a sudden what should be a great experience turns out to be a less than great experience, and the restaurant 3 weeks later is having very slow business. We really put a lot of importance in those first couple weeks, and we send our people out there, up to 3 people. Again, an operator and 2 trainers will go out to the openings and stay up there for up to 2 weeks, and just stay with the franchisee, doing everything from opening up with them every day to closing down at night, and helping with the training and the ongoing support in the opening. So
it looks like you're doing everything to get 100% satisfaction from everybody coming to that grand opening, because you're right. I mean, that can be crucial. You don't want to lose customers right away.
Well, we're real committed to it. We're real committed to the brand. We're real committed to our training programs, and we have some really neat stuff. I don't know if you've been to our Lenny's Sub Shop webpage, but I'll take a second to tag that and say Lennys.com, Lennys.com. And of course, it's set up for for people to come and look at our menu, look at our company. But our franchisees can log in and do everything from ordering supplies and materials to we have our new Learn program, which they can actually go online and watch videos on how to make a cheesesteak and how to do all these things. So we've got a great training program in place, and the people that run our training department do nothing short of an incredible job with it. Really do.
If you catch a new franchisee with a garbage can in the dining room, do you cut up their franchise agreement?
I don't want to tell you what we do. It's not pretty.
There you go.
We don't know. We treat people like we like to be treated. And listen, there's always going to be hiccups, and there's always going to be somebody trying to do something. Oh, well, we put a trash can in to do that, and we just very simply we do field inspections and we do visits on a regular basis. And if we see something that's, I guess we'll say, out of compliance with what we do or what we believed we should be doing, then we have to be consistent. We have to enforce our standards, and we'll ask them to make the change. And then I've never had a situation yet where a franchise franchisee hasn't been willing to listen and do what they know is really right. So
right, that's what a franchise is all about. You want to make sure that sandwich will be the same in Houston or in Florida.
Well, that's it, and we have to protect the brand at all costs. You really do, and but as far as going in and threatening people, now we're not into that. We really don't. We have a pretty good relationship with all of our franchisees, and it's generally as simple as a telephone call and, hey, I noticed this, and they're usually as surprised to hear about it as we are. So it always gets fixed very quickly.
Yeah. What's a typical day like, Len, for a Lenny shop franchisee?
Well, our concept, you have to understand our concept. It's really pretty neat. When I started the Lenny's concept, and I don't want to drag this on too long, but I made a list of all the things I liked about the restaurant business, which really didn't take too long. And I took all the things I didn't like. And one thing that we structured when we set up Lenny's is we set up a program in a company that is driven by daytime sales. And up to 70% of our volume is daytime. So which is kind of exciting because growing up in the food service business, and if you guys ever worked in a restaurant, and I'm sure I've never met anybody that hasn't, but it's typically driven at nighttime and nights and weekends, and that's good family time. And then I turn around and I look back, and I guess one of my biggest regrets is I missed my time growing up with the family. But our typical Lenny's franchisee operators will come in the morning around 8 o'clock and start baking their bread and get all that done by about 8:30, 9 o'clock, and then they'll deal with their admin stuff for the day, whatever they have to do, telephone calls, follow-ups, orders, things like that. And then around 10 o'clock, they start getting ready to open the doors of their shop, and they'll, of course, work through the lunch rush. We run typically about a 5 to 7 man staff for lunch, and they'll be one of the key people in that at lunchtime, and they'll get to be out visiting with guests and talking and doing all those fun things and making sure the food looks great and just taking care of all the day-to-day operation stuff. And they'll probably go to the bank after lunch and sit down and have a little bite to eat, visit with a few employees, and around about 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, they'll be calling it a day and heading on home with about 70% of their volume already in the cash register for the day. So, and then we'll use a shift leader, or maybe if the store is busy enough, a second manager that'll come in and do the night shift and run the restaurant till closing each night. But
it's a nice selling point for a new franchisee, Len, to have those daytime type hours.
Well, it is, and and one thing too about our concept is that we don't have fryers and all the things that typically make a kitchen a messy, dirty place to work. So our restaurants are very, very neat and clean, not just out front where our guests are, but in the back as well. Mm-hmm. And you can go in and work an 8, 10, 12-hour day in a Lenny's sub shop and walk out of there still feeling fresh and happy to jump in the car and go out and meet your significant other and have dinner and have a nice evening out. It's most restaurants I worked in over the years, when I went home at the end of the day, I was too dirty and too greasy to do much of anything. But Lenny's is really a simple, neat little. It's just, I guess you can tell I love the concept, and it's just, it's neat. It's really neat.
Is there an ideal location, Len, for the franchisees?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear your question. I'm sorry.
Location. Is there an ideal location for a Lenny's?
Oh, yeah. Well, we run a lot of demographics, and again, if you visit the Lennys.com website, we actually list a lot of our real estate criteria for people that are looking to find a site, as well as typical realtors that want to give us a call. But we look for high visibility streets. We look for traffic counts of at least 20,000 cars plus per day. Because we're strongly driven during the daytime component, we look for at least 500 to 700 businesses within a 1 mile radius of the restaurant, and we'd like to see it jump to about 1,100 businesses within 2 miles. And but we have some demographics. We like end caps. We like the corner. Our typical building is about 1,800 square feet to 2,000 square feet, but we have some smaller. I have one that's 900 square feet, and we have some bigger up to maybe 2,400 square feet. So, but the big things that we look for, the traffic counts, number one, being in excess of 20,000 cars a day. We look for the end cap. We really like over the an inline site on a strip center, and then, like I said, the easy visibility. We look for plenty of parking. We need at least 30 plus parking spots, at the lunch hour, so we have room for our guests to park and visit. And that's the primary numbers. And then we get into all the other demographic numbers of populations and incomes and all those kind of things. But those are the things we look at first when we're looking at a site.
That's great.
What advice would you give to an aspiring entrepreneur looking to buy a franchise? Just in general, I mean, with all your experience over the years, Len, you've learned so much, been so successful. People listening to the show, what's the bottom line advice that you can tell our
first and foremost, as we said early on, and I'll continue to say, keeping it simple, is you've got to be committed to whatever you're going to get into, whether it's selling submarine sandwiches or whatever you're going to do. Be committed to it. You have to love it. You have to have a passion for it, and you really have to believe that your product or your service is the very, very best there is out there, or you shouldn't go into it. That's number one. Number two is do your homework. Do your due diligence. check out the franchise company. Make sure you understand what they do. Make sure you understand their relationship with their franchisees. Make sure that you really do your homework on that end. Don't just say, oh boy, I love Lenny's and jump in and buy a franchise. Do your homework and or whatever franchise you're looking at. Check the company out. Read their UFOC. Really understand who it is that you're getting ready to go in business with, and make sure you understand it. The next thing is, once you make the decision, I think, is listen to the franchise company, because they've learned from experience, especially when they get up into the 100-plus restaurants. They've learned. They've worked in a lot of different demographics in a lot of different areas, and they understand what people like, what they don't like, and there's usually a reason behind everything they do. So listen to them. All too often we see franchise in every company. The first thing they do is they're committed to this company. They sign a franchise agreement, and then the next day they go out and try to reinvent the wheel.
Right.
And they say, well, let's change this. Let's do that. Let's do it this way. Let's do it that way. And they're all good suggestions. And certainly the franchisor from whatever franchise you have should listen to those suggestions. But remember what got you there. Remember what you liked about the concept and why you came with that particular franchise, and stay committed to it. And I guess that's really it. And then, like I said, you just have to really get out there and go get it. Failure's not an option. I was interviewed several years ago from a company, and they said, boy, you took all this risk and you started this company, and, and you were in your 40s when you started it. You gave up a great job and a great career and all this, what about it? What if you'd failed? And, I never really even thought, failure was never an option,
Right.
And you got to have that mentality. Failure's not an option. I'm going to do whatever it takes to make my business successful. And when you buy a franchise, that's the way you got to go. There's certainly a lot of comforts in buying a franchise. You've got a product that's proven. You talk about that in your show all the time, so I'm not going to waste time doing that. But, franchise companies, my belief is it's a great way to go out and start going into business for yourself and fall back on the experience and expertise of the people. But do your homework.
Absolutely.
All great advice, Len.
Yeah, Len, we have about 15 seconds. What's the best way for someone to get more information on Lenny's or to get in touch with you?
Oh, great. Lennys.com, LENNYS.com. And, you can always file your questions, comments. It gives all the contact numbers. I travel a lot. I'm always available. George Alvord, of course, I guess president, the big boss is right now over in Memphis. Contact. We got a great group of people up there in our Memphis office. I think we got over 40 people up there supporting franchisees, and just give them a call. They'll direct the call where it needs to go. Get on the Lennys.com website and pay us a visit, and you can always track me down if you need to.
That's fantastic. I want to thank you again, Len. You've been a fantastic guest. We're going to have you back.
Good job, Len. Happy holidays.
Oh,
Happy holidays,
guys.
Len.
Happy holidays to you, and thanks for having us this morning.
Thanks, Len. Take care. Great concept, huh, Don?
Yeah, great concept, and you can't speak to someone who has more experience than him.
Absolutely.
Young age.
Very passionate too. You can see why he was so successful. And about what he was doing. But once again, great show, Don. Franchise websites to go to: franchiseinterviews.com and gofranchise.com.
Yep, a new site we're introducing to the company, and
absolutely,
time check it out.
You can actually hear all the interviews on that website as well. So, great job, Don, and great job, Jedit, and I'll see you next week, Don.